Hi guys, it's me again. This is gonna be like the last video for today. Maybe I'm gonna check later the comments, suggestions like that. I would love to answer all of it, but I don't want to spam your YouTube. So I just want to say that this next video is for John Doe from Jane Doe. Kidding. And I want everyone to know that whatever I say here is my personal opinion, personal experience, and it's just my perspective on what I see, what I hear, and what I experience, or what other people around me experience and they tell me. So it doesn't really talk about the whole Filipino, Filipina like that. So for Filipinos, please don't get butthurt. For foreigners, please don't get angry with me if there are some words that you don't like, something like that. Just understand that probably it's not you who did it, but you have some fellow men who did it. Just like me, many people are saying bad things to me, like, you know, but I just think that it's not me. People are still individual, you know. But let's go straight. Our topic now is about maids. This one is Filipina maids from Mr. John Doe. He asked me, this was his question. Where are you? Okay. How much do they make? What do they do on the job? How old are they? They usually are. And who are they as a person? And what makes them get into that work? That's a lot of questions, but let me answer them as, you know, as logical as I can and in my experience. Now I just want you to know that this experience, my answers are based on the maids that we had when I was younger and the maids that my uncle and aunts have right now, because they have children and both of my uncle and aunts are working, so they hire maids to look after the children. And then the maids that my ex-boss, Korean boss, had, as well as my students, their parents hire maids to look after their needs in the Philippines, because they usually stay in the Philippines from Korea. And lastly, the maids of my stepmom's friends and relatives, like far relatives who are married to Western people and something like that. So I'm gonna answer first of all, how much do they make? When I was younger, we paid the maids like 1,500 a month, but that was when I was 4 years old. But nowadays, their income is around 3,000 pesos to 6,000 pesos was the highest payment that I heard. Although I have a friend, they had a maid for a long time, so she's like, since he was 4 years old and now he's 24 and the maid is taking care of his baby. And I think they are paying the maid now around 15,000 pesos. But seriously, their house is big like that. He's a son of a a grandson of a politician, so basically they belong to those rich clans, and the maid stayed with them for a very long time. That's why she has, you know, good benefits like that and better salary. But usually, normally it's only like 3,000 pesos to 6,000 pesos, so that's the maximum I heard. And what do they do on the job? Well, just like normal ones, they clean, they wash the dishes, they cook, but usually they cook only breakfast and dinner. So the maids that I meet, especially my students' maids, they don't really have much free time, because even if they're not cooking for lunch, the Korean wife would find something for them to do, like weed out using a scissor in a big garden. Seriously, that's crazy, but yeah. And yeah, they would also do the laundry and just, you know, housework, and sometimes wash the car. And then the next one, how old are they usually are? So usually these maids are, okay, I don't know how to segregate them, but if the maid is from around Angeles City, the maids are from 18 to 40 years old. But normally, Koreans and Western people, if they just really want a maid, they would hire from 25 to 40 years old. Now, Koreans also hire from that age range. Why? Because according to them, since they have children, they need more money, so they will work hard. That is their what do they believe. But some Koreans and some maids, you know, just cannot handle their boss. Like I heard one maid, her Korean boss would lock the refrigerator even though they said it's free meal, but it's free accommodation. But you would see their room, it's really small. I don't even know how to, I'm not good with math, but it's kind of small. So yeah, it's so some of them quit. So Koreans are trying to avoid that, so they would hire a maid agency, from a maid agency, and then they would get their maids from Cebu and Mindanao. Usually they are 18 to 25 years old, and then these maids are really in need of money, and at the same time they cannot go home or run away because the distance and the plane ticket. For example, I am the Korean, I'm gonna pay the plane ticket of the girl, and she would work for me, and then I would deduct her salary. So if her salary is 3,500, I'm gonna take 500 a month until she pays for the plane ticket. And she only has usually 2 days off in 1 month. And why did I take her from a very far place? Because I could avoid her making, because usually Filipino maids would make reasons like my brother died, my father died, my uncle died, my brother, many people died, so they have to go home. They get a little bit extra money, and sometimes some of them steal and some of them take foods like that. So Koreans are avoiding that. Even though they didn't experience it, some Koreans did, and they posted in a blog, so they try to avoid that, and they just they just ask them to pay, like, I mean, those, aside from paying what they took, sometimes they would ask, they prefer those women from far away places because they cannot go home easily. It would take time. Unlike the ones around Angeles City, they can run away. That's their term. Like my brother died, then they would give extra, let's say 2,000 pesos, then they will never come back. So for the houses, that is the Korean. For Filipinos, we usually hire them, but Saturday, Sunday, my uncle and aunt's maid, three of my aunts have maids, so they have a 2 days day off. That's the day off of my uncle and aunt as well. Because my aunt works for, one for SM, the other one for public school teacher. So they can, because their position is a little bit high, they can choose their day off. So they can also give a day off for their maids, but sometimes their maids, they get too much from our family loves to give to them. So like my old clothes, sometimes I give it to the girls because they are young, and sometimes they're my age but they have a lot of children already, so they prefer to stay because they think that going home they would just spend money like that and see their husband, something like that, their husband who has no job. Okay, for the maids of the Western people who are married to Filipinas, usually they are relatives. So why relatives, you might wonder? Well, here's their logic. I asked my stepmom about that because when we visited the house of I forgot her name, Ate Gemma, we visited her house. It's in Hensonville, Josefaville, like really near Fields Avenue. Really big house, and then some apartments at the back. I asked why. My stepmom knows everybody in that house, the gardener, the cook, the driver. I learned that it's their relative. So I asked why the relatives, why the nephew, the niece, and the aunt, like that. Then my stepmom told me it's because it's better to give the money to the family instead to other people. But sometimes I heard that the foreigner, when he talks to my dad, he's a little bit uncomfortable with having relatives as their maids because when they ask for a favor, it's difficult for them to say no. And another thing is, it's difficult for him to order them around because they are still relatives in context, right? So I think that's not really a good idea. Okay, so that's their ages. Who are they as a person? I'm not really sure. They are usually, because everybody, they are different. Some of them, I heard, maybe, some of them steal. I know 2 maids that have been banned inside Clark, and it's because they steal from the Koreans. And I had one student who actually saw the ate stealing money from his wallet while he's sleeping. It's really awful, and I'm embarrassed about that. And now she's banned. So yeah, who are they as a person? Some of them are kind, some of them are not, and usually they are just people who didn't even finish elementary or high school, so they have no other choice but to work as a maid. And usually some of them never had experience working. Probably they got married early and then they have babies now, and then their husbands, something like that. But that's for your next question. But who are they as a person? The ones that I met, some of them are kind, but some of them, yeah, are a little bit abusive. Like they want to go home, they are always sick, they want to fix this, they want to fix that, they get more money from their boss, and then suddenly they will quit. But some of them are like my aunt's maid, and they love my aunts and uncles, so they stay longer. And by the way, my uncles and aunts ates are around 30 years old. So what makes them get into that work? This was the answer. For the women who are in a from the faraway place like Cebu, Visayas or Mindanao, it's because of money and poverty. I think most of them are because of money, and then some of them, why? Because some of them came from big families. Even in Angeles City, most of them came from big families, but usually from Visayas and Mindanao, really, like they still have like 5 siblings, 10 siblings, like that. But around in Angeles City, most of them are married, they have children, their children needs money, but they don't have enough money to, they don't have enough money to earn from their husband, like something like that. Their husband doesn't earn enough because most of them are construction workers, and construction workers, even if their salary is like 600 a day, it's not permanent, so they usually only like earn 6 months they have a job, 6 months no job, so the girl has to do something to feed the family, right? And they are the ones who get the job easily because they are women. And some of them just ran away from home, and they really have nowhere to go, so they end up as maids. And then so those are the usual situations. Now for the younger ones, usually they are married, or some of them are single mothers, but they said they don't want to work in a bar, so they prefer working, and they still have they cannot speak English, so they are afraid to work in the bar. And yeah, sometimes they just end up working as ates, and because usually they provide free accommodation and food. I think some of them even allows their child to be with them, but that's really rare. And yeah, I know one Korean student, he allowed the baby to be there, but only during weekdays, and then weekends they both have to go home because my student has to party. And then the next one. Okay, I think that he said it's interesting because he hears so many older men, like 50 plus, that are already married and they will never get married again, and they just rather hire a maid and have sex with her. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Remember his nanny for the babies? But okay, this situation, personally, I haven't really heard it from the maids that my student, my boss, or my uncle has, because most of them are old, really old, and second, they're not that beautiful. That's why they cannot really work in the bar, so they end up as maids. And third, most of them are chubby. And they also have their families. Now, for that situation, 50 years old that hires maids, I saw an advertisement before. I don't know where, but he was looking for a live-in maid. And I don't know, something like that, because I was posting an advertisement for one company. So I was looking for places where I could post that advertisement. But I saw that. Does it happen? Yes, I believe it happens, because if there's a demand, there's a supply, and if there's a need, right? Why do these Filipinas do that? Why do they hook up with their boss? I guess first, just my guess, they need money. Probably the boss would offer more. And second, they have a hope, like, oh, maybe my boss will like me eventually, support me eventually. So they are willing to take the risk. And do I think not only maids, but also some nurses who agree to those caregivers. So they are taking the risk and at the same time having hopes on probably the guy would change his mind, something like that. Or maybe they never knew what's on the mind of the foreigner, and they just assume that it's like that. It's gonna work out that way. But unfortunately it doesn't, something like that. And some of them just really get attracted with the money, you know. Like, I'm gonna give you, let's say he's gonna offer like 10,000 pesos a month, or let's say 15,000 pesos a month if you agree to live with me, no strings attached, we'll have sex like that. So I think the girl, instead of, you know, meeting one foreigner to another, she has a stable income plus a free, you know, place to stay and food, of course, even though there is no relationship going on, just no strings attached. I think that is the reason why these Filipinas agree and they do those things. They are trying to hold on to a temporary security, while probably they are taking the risk, and of course, yeah, the money. And some of them, I heard some foreigners cheating on their wives with the younger maids. Why? I don't know why the guy did that. Maybe the younger maid is pretty, but as for the maid, it's money and the hope of, I think, the hope of, you know, probably the guy will eventually fall in love with her. Maybe it's a hope that is difficult, you know. But once again, since I was growing up nowadays, you know, after my parents separated, we really never had a maid, so I cannot really explain that. And that is just what I hear and what I saw and just my perception. It doesn't mean it really talks about everyone. So for those who are planning to get a maid, always make sure that you're gonna get a good maid. You can always check on their NBI like that, and check if they have criminal records, because probably they are banned, you know, but they sneak out. And yeah, and then for those who have maids and having those types of relationship, well, it's your life, and I think both of you are old enough to have that mutual understanding with your decisions. And for those who are planning, I really don't know if it's gonna work out or not. Probably you just have to find a woman that would agree with that or not, or ask the people who had that experience. Okay, it's really long, and I hope I answered your question, Mr. John Doe. And everyone, have a nice weekend. I'll try to make another video this week, because I really have a lot of, you know, comments, suggestions, emails, something like that. But I'm happy, and thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Even for my haters, thank you. You make me stronger. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Have a nice week.